it to go away in the public because we had friends, from the aerospace industry and friends from everywhere, scientists that wanted to study it, and the deal was stay away from the UFO world, stay away from the public. We want to work with you, see what's going on. And so I just was so happy to be out of the public. I didn't ever want to speak about it again. These people were helping my children understand and cope with school and made us feel special. And I mean, I just want to thank these folks. And so along about Easter that night, I had this experience, and she said, "You know why I'm here? This is your burden you must bear." And that meant that I was told from the beginning I had to tell this story, what I knew, how I understood it, what happened, and that's all they ever wanted is me to tell it. So after she came, I knew that was it. I had to tell it, and I was really willing to tell it. But what I didn't know is Dr. Pasulka, which is a very smart individual. I'm telling you, she's a genius, I would say. We just think a lot of her. She came. She had approached MUFON early on because in her religious studies, she's very, very well known in by people within the Vatican. She went to Berkeley. You just study who she is. I mean, she was like somebody that could help me with answers. But she was she approached MUFON and said, I want to talk to people that reported angelic encounters. They said, well, there's a guy right down the street from you, a couple of hours away, hour and a half away. That so they lined it up. They called me and said, we have this person we want you to meet. Would you be willing to talk? And in 2 weeks, I was at a conference after the lady come. I'm in 6 hours away. I drove 6 hours with my youngest son, Ryan, to meet this professor and to tell the story. And so I started telling it about the lady. That's all I wanted to talk about because it had just happened 2 weeks before. I would have never met her if it hadn't have been for this encounter with this lady. She arranged it. So let's fast forward to June. After I didn't even meet her really that night. I just met her husband and we talked. Very nice. And she stayed away, arm's length away. Never spoke to me other than a nod. So long about June, July, I get a call from MUFON again. Would you come speak or come to Wilmington? We don't want you to speak, but Dr. Pasulka is going to be there. We want you to. She wants to spend a few minutes with you. So I drove down, Ryan and I again. We go to dinner that evening, the whole group, and then we go out on the beach that night. And Diana and I moved down the beach about 20 or 30 yards from the group. They were sky watching, and we began to talk. And she had, she just had a big experience in her life during that time that made her be where she is today.
You're talking about Diana Pasulka.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So here comes the October, and Diana calls me, and we've been talking a little bit we never talked from the first time I met her till June or July, and then we talked some from there to, we were like very good study partners now. We're getting into the religious aspect. So she calls me and says, Chris, I'm here in Wilmington and I'm working on a television project, a movie called The Conjuring, a very prominent horror show. And she said, I'm just being led to introduce you to these guys. They want to meet you. And I'm like, Diana, it would take a miracle for me to meet anybody in the television industry. Just 3.5 years ago, my life was nearly destroyed because I went public, and I'd promised myself I said, tell you what, I'm gonna ask for a sign, because this lady told me she would always be there and she would help me to tell the world. to tell my experience. She said, I'll guide you. So this was like on a Monday when she calls me. Long about Thursday, she calls me again. She called me a couple times that week, but she wrote me and she said, have you gotten a sign yet? I said, no, Diane, I haven't got a sign. I'm sorry. She said, well, these guys are leaving Saturday. They're going back to California, and I really wanted you to meet them. I said, I'm sorry, but I haven't had a sign. So on Thursday night, I walk out the back door. This is when I quit smoking, by the way. It's the 13th of October. That brings to me the date. My wife and I were watching television in my study, and I said, I'm going to go out and smoke. So I paused the television, walked out the back door. It had been raining for 2 days. Measured rainfall, about an inch or more rain. It was the grass was wet. I'm out smoking just off the patio, and here she comes out behind me, and when she looks through the back door, she hasn't even opened it yet. These sparks about 100 yards or 75 yards out behind our house, back at the back of the property, we see sparks come off this tree. And it was really weird looking. Little red sparks just went in different directions. And she opened the door and she said, what in the world is going on with that tree? I said, I have no idea. So it did it once or twice more, and then all of a sudden, right in front of she and I, it erupted into flames, 10, 12 feet high. It was just bursted out of the side of this tree, and we're burning that high in the air. Well, she freaks out. You can hear her voice in the video. Ryan takes the video. My mom and dad and everybody sees it. I drag a hose way back there. Had a garden near the area, so we had a hose spigot out. So I bring her a hose pipe, and she personally puts this thing out, sticks the hose up in the tree. It's burned a hole in the side of it. It's really hot, and puts it out. Ryan took video of it and putting it out. This was at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock that night. Everybody was so messed up about this thing, she couldn't sleep. So 12 o'clock, she looks out the back door, we all do, and now this thing's burning again. It erupted itself back into flames. So same process. She goes out and puts it out again. 3 o'clock in the morning, it catches on fire the third time. Well, anyhow, the first time it caught a fire at 9 o'clock that night, as it's burning, I text Diane. I said, I got my sign. I'll see you in the morning. So we drove to Wilmington.
That's a sign. That
was it.
That's a sign, Chris. And yep. You're glossing over this just a bit, okay? And I respect that. But let me back up here. From watching this video, and when Chris shot, you can see clearly in the video, and I don't think I misinterpreted this. The flames were coming from inside of the tree. It wasn't on the. This was self-combusting. It's like spontaneous tree combustion that is happening from inside of the tree. And when you see something like that, how look, you guys are hosing it down, you're putting it out, it's just rained for a couple of days. Everything is nothing catches on fire in nature when things are going down like this. But this tree has decided to self-combust internally. What's going through your mind? I love Chris's reaction on the video, by the way. I think his reaction was pretty honest. What's going through your mind? Because this is impossible.
Right. Well, that changed. Well, it was I didn't know what to think. I just knew it was a sign because the lady told me, I will help you. If you'll do this, I'll help you share with the world. Well, let me tell you, from the time she left, from that point on is when I started taking all these videos. For the first 5 years, this stuff would be in my house or over top. The kids were seeing it, all of us. But as soon as I'd pull out a telephone or anything to shoot a picture with, it would disappear. One time it fried a camera. But after that 2012 event is when I started getting all this, these videos and these and able to share it with people. I mean, as little as last month, a friend of mine, he's become a very good friend now, is Dr. Bob McGuire from Virginia Tech, called me or wrote me at Thanksgiving and said, "Can I come see you? I'd like to meet you, my wife and I, and talk about doing some aerial tracking, see if we can catch some of it." I said, "Sure."
Are you talking about Bob McGuire from the Hume Center at Virginia Tech? Oh, okay. All right. Now you're in the big leagues. Okay.
All right. So he comes out and right after he writes me at Thanksgiving. He comes out in January, for second week of January, I think. And it was here on Friday. He just got here on Friday, so we spent a lot of time chatting, and he and his wife, we all got to meet each other, and it was cloudy and rainy, and then Saturday it rained, and Saturday night it rained, and we're just having a good time of conversation. Well, Sunday night, it started clearing up and got a beautiful sky. We went out to eat, and along about 8 or 8:30, I guess, he would know, we decided we can sky watch. So we go out to my little man cave. I have a little shop in the yard, and I spend a lot of time, and it's just, we live on a cabin on a pond, and it's private back in there. So the back end of the pond is darker. So we walk towards that way, and I just looked up at the heavens, and I asked them, I need a sign if I'm supposed to allow Dr. McGuire to work with me and try to capture some of this on film. And no longer than I said it, right in front of him, he heard me. Within a minute, it started appearing. And it appeared for over an hour, and he's already talked public about it. And I mean, it was really incredible. They were appearing in the trees, orbs, shooting through the trees, and he'll tell the story. But it changed his life. And then his wife, we'll let him tell this, but she had a stroke and was suffering from the consequences of that. And when he goes home, he starts having experiences over the next 5 or 6 days or 2 weeks that were just incredible. And his wife has since been cured from her disability with this stroke. And so, this is what has gone on through the years. And I'll leave him to tell the rest of it, but that's enough there. When you add John Alexander and Chase Klutsky and some folks from Raleigh, they can all attest to this ongoing, and it hears us, and I've got some pretty amazing evidence to share. Some that can't be debunked. Let's put it that way.
Sure, yeah. And the burning tree video is incredible. And before we start to wind this down, I've got less than 10 minutes left. Now that, do you think it's your property, or do you think it's you? Right? Is this a geographical situation that is attracting what is happening, or do you think that it is because of you?
It's not the property. I have plenty of people that will vouch for it. Like, our friend that introduced us, Lori. She experienced it in Encinitas. I flew out to meet with a bunch of folks, and we walked right out on we drove out on the Pacific Highway and right around Encinitas there. And I told her daughter she was going to experience this stuff. I just knew she would that night. And sure enough, a few minutes later, we were experiencing it close up, and it flew right over our head, 2 of them. Couple 300 feet high above us, and they joined together like one and just made one object and shot off to the south. So it doesn't matter. It's been here. It's been on anywhere. It's the same sky. I look up in California and see the same stars that I see from my home, and I just ask it to come, and it listens, it hears me, and it answers. I ask for signs, I ask for answers, and if it appears, then that's a big yes. If it doesn't appear, then that's a big no.
You said to me earlier tonight, I'm just going to tell everybody. So Chris and I are talking before the show tonight, and he goes, Jimmy, I'm just going to let you know. I asked everybody, I said, so what about this church guy? And they said affirmative. And that makes me feel pretty good.
I walked out an hour before the show, and I looked up at the sky, and I asked it if it was going to guide me, and if it was what I'm supposed to do tonight. And like I said, I don't do anything unless I get signs for it. And it answered with a big glowing orange orb appeared and flew a piece and disappeared right in front of me. So I knew that I'm in the right hands.
And I appreciate that. And so does the audience. There's another part to this when you say it like that, which is now we are getting into the zone of something spiritual, possibly religious, possibly extraterrestrial. And this is where I stop, Chris, and go, you know what? Just maybe it's all the same thing.
Yep.
Right?
I agree 100%.
Is that where you are today?
Yes, sir. Because the same orbs you see that everybody says, oh, he's into orbs. And I've been saying orbs because that's what appeared in '07. But those same orbs in the daytime are shiny silver disc. And I have a lot of photo of that and video as well. They can be like a metallic object, or they can be a big ball of glowing light. So I think it's all in the same, or including ghosts. And I have a lot of orb photos with people in them and dogs in them and animals in them. So, and I never could get any of that until the experience with the lady. Nothing. I could not take a photo. But after that, the floodgates opened. And then people like Chase and her husband had an experience, a major experience, where we lost time. Then a scientist from Wake Forest University, a government research scientist, she and her assistant came and experienced 2 hours of missing time, and she caught it on camera. She caught audio, video of an entity walking up to the tree, a lot of stuff that I've just never shared, but all these people shared it with me. John Alexander, his book Reality Denied, he came here 4 or 5 years ago, and my daughter and I and his wife Victoria, we went down to the river, and almost the same time of night. It was just after dark, good, and the stars came out, and we were standing there against my car, and Emily was in the back seat with her feet out the door, and Victoria was in the passenger side back seat with her door closed, so she didn't get to see it, but Emily saw it clear. But I'm standing there with John, and all of a sudden, my hair stood up everywhere. I felt it, this euphoria. I can hardly breathe. And I said, John, it's here. It's right above us. And about that time, the crickets even stopped chirping, just completely stopped. And 10 seconds, John will tell you, 10 seconds later, it appeared above us in a big pulsating ball of light. It didn't fly over. It wasn't a satellite. It was just not very high above us, 1,000 feet maybe above us, but it appeared out of thin air and started pulsing very brightly and flew off in a hurry to the south. And John put that in his book, second chapter, Reality Denied. So, he's a pretty, it pretty much changed his life that night too. He saw it.
Well, not only do I want to thank you, you never know who's listening. And as you mentioned Bob McGuire, he just tweeted, by the way. So Bob is listening, and he says, it's not the property. It follows Chris around. And I said, okay, here comes a shout-out to Bob. So I tweeted that out. Bob, you got a shout-out. And, I got to get Bob on the show. Maybe I can talk him into it. Thank you so much, Chris. Absolutely extraordinary. I can't wait for part 2. And we'll talk about that tomorrow off air. But a great, great conversation tonight. I was really looking forward to this, and so was everybody else. And I feel that we've left so much on the table, but yet we discussed so much. And I want to thank you for taking the time tonight. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you for having me. And I knew going into this tonight. I didn't before, but tonight I knew I was in the right hands. And it's proven to be so. I just want to thank you for this, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And all the best. Have a great, safe rest of your evening. I want you to go out in the backyard and go, yeah, you're right, church wasn't that bad. And maybe, maybe you'll get a little visit from an orb. Thank you so much, Chris. Good. And we'll talk tomorrow, man. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Chris Bledsoe. And now, everybody, we just went literally pole to pole. I've got to roll credits and get out of here before I'm cut off on the network. I want to thank Chris Bledsoe for the conversation tonight, and I know that everybody enjoyed. I was on the edge of my seat. Incredible conversation. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Camarion. Shows produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.